The Haya Commission has found that there is currently no capacity for the state to provide free tertiary education to all students. With us in studio, we have Matthew Potts from COSATU. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Matthew, what is COSATU's take on the Haya Commission's findings that the state currently has no capacity to provide free tertiary education for all students?
Sure. Look, we only got the report literally about 2 hours ago or something when it was finally released by the president. But I mean, such a conclusion wouldn't surprise us. I mean, government's finances are extremely under stretch. There's a 50 billion rand shortfall of revenue this year. The deficit is increasing at very worrying levels. So it's no surprise that there's not enough money currently. We do think that if government engaged with society, we could find the money within the state budget, but it would mean certain sacrifices by the state. It might mean certain cuts, certain revenue increases, but also for us, I think the starting point is let's first cut back on the wasteful expenditure, the corruption, which is the easiest way to start freeing up money for this. But we agree with the principle of having free and affordable tertiary education.
What system seems a viable system for COSATU in terms of free education?
Sure. Look, I think you need a bit of a hybrid system. It can't just be free for everybody, especially those who can afford it. That'll simply be unaffordable at current tax levels. But we do agree that working class, middle class families need either free education or affordable education. Currently it's just become out of control that a UCT degree for 1 year of studies is 60,000 rand a year. Stellenbosch will be 40, 50,000 and so on. It's so simply unaffordable. If you add into account residence fees, you're looking at 100,000 rand per annum for a child to study at university. So only the rich can afford that, not even the middle class. But it needs to be a bit of a hybrid model that you might say, okay, the poor can be for free. Others can pay a certain proportion in regard to how much their family earns and so on. The current threshold for household is about 125,000 rand, I think, which excludes 90% of society. Even the proposed measure of the Commission of 350,000, it still excludes the majority of working class households. So we need to get a bit of a decent model, but you can only do that if you have everybody engaged in government, universities, students, unions, etc.
And that would take time.
It'll take time. You can't do it in a dark corner, in a dark alley somewhere, a few weeks before the ANC Congress, 2 months before universities reopen in February, and you haven't engaged government alone. So far, according to the Sunday Times, only the president, his DG, and allegedly his daughter's supposed boyfriend have copies of the thing.
What do you make of that?
It's bizarre. It's insane, to say the least. How do you get confidence in it if the ministers of higher education, both the last one and the current one, haven't seen it? The DG of higher education hasn't seen it. According to the Sunday Times, even the Minister of Finance hasn't seen it.
What do you think about the timing of President Jacob Zuma's support of free fees for tertiary education?
No, it's bizarre, and it raises all sorts of questions around politics. Is he doing it just because it's the December Congress? Is he trying to get sharp support? But also, he has delayed this thing. The report was given to him in August. We're now in November. So what is the point of the 3-month delay? Why weren't the two ministers of higher education given copies of it? Why wasn't Treasury engaged around it? But look, even for us, we didn't think that you needed to have even the commission in the first place, because we all know what the problem is, unaffordable education. We all know you need a calculator and to look at different models to come to what's the right amount that's free, what should be paid, what revenue should be increased or cut. And you've said we wasted 2 years having a commission, and then you waste another few months of the president sitting on it. So really, this thing should have been dealt with long ago. Just get a few actuarial scientists, tax experts, budget experts, and we come to
look at the numbers.
Look at the numbers, because it comes down to numbers.
The Rand hasn't reacted well to President Zuma's support of the free fees for all tertiary education, albeit for a year. What do you think the ratings agencies are going to be making of this?
Yeah. Look, I think Moody's is already very clear they're going to downgrade us in next week, which means that investment from overseas is going to start outflowing. I think figures have talked about 100, 200 billion rand immediately will leave. And I think, look, I don't think your international rating agencies care whether or not education is free or not free. They just check, can you afford it? Will your budget balance? And if Gigabo was talking about a 50 billion rand shortfall of revenue, Now you're going to add another 40 billion rand to
Yeah,
that.
that does seem strange in terms of the constraint medium-term budget policy statement that Minister Gigaga gave not too long ago.
2 weeks ago.
Doesn't seem to fit.
Doesn't seem to fit. So I think that's what they're going to hit us on, that we don't seem to know what we're doing. We're operating a government like a Spaza shop. We're just blowing the money. There's no sense of kind of a plan, of a team, nothing. It's just everything goes. And to kind of give you a sense of how clueless government has become, today Gigaba was quoted as saying he supports the proposed 4%, 4.5% salary hike for politicians. The very same chaps who say the public service wage bill is out of control, we need to reduce, etc., etc. We're in a 50 billion rand shortfall, yet they're ready to eat some more.
Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate you coming into the studio and giving us your insight into this.
Okay.